What up, YTH320? This week, I'm so excited because we are going to be diving into something new. This week, we're going to be diving into the book of 1 Peter, chapter 2, verse 11, and into the book of Daniel. So get ready. It's going to be an awesome, awesome time together. I think sometimes, for all of us, we feel like outsiders. In 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 11, it says, "Dear friends, I warn you, as temporary residents and foreigners, to keep away from worldly desires that wage war against your very soul." No matter what kind of environment we're in, whether we're in a school, whether we're at a job, whether we're at our home sometimes, we can feel like outsiders. And it's not just us. Some of the most famous people in the world feel that way too.
Melissa asks, tweets, Drake claims he wasn't cool in high school. What made you uncool?
I just didn't, it wasn't that I wasn't cool, it was that the kids that were cool, I wasn't on their wavelength, which made me sort of uncool, I guess. So like, it was, I just always felt like an outsider. I went, when I was in Forest Hill, it was an all Jewish school, and just being biracial, but still being Jewish. So I was like kind of connected to the kids, but like sort of distant. And when kids are young, they don't necessarily comprehend everything.
Right.
So it can get a little cruel and a little mean.
You get teased a lot?
Yeah. I mean, I got it,
Girl that was the outsider as a
Such
kid
nerd. Oh my God.
is no longer.
No, well, I don't know. I just went to an event recently with Sharon Osbourne. It was a fundraiser for MS. And I'm sitting at a table, super name dropping, sorry, it ends well. So I'm sitting at a table with Sharon and Rod Stewart and, all these kind of dignitaries. And I remember sitting next to Rod Stewart and trying not to sweat on him. Because it was just flop sweating just like that, like a river. And I just thought, wow, I don't belong here. Someone's gonna come up and be like, this isn't your seat, you need to maybe go back and make a sandwich for somebody. That's just still how I feel. I don't feel, I love what I do, and I'm really focused on making interesting art and trying to speak to the other outsiders like me who feel like there's nobody, you look at Hollywood, and it seems like everybody's perfect here, and I think a part of my job, for lack of a better description, is to be the voice for the people who still feel like outsiders, still feel like the nerds they were when they were.
I feel like I'm still I feel like I'm the outsider on the inside, if that makes sense. But I've kind of just
You can feel like an outsider whenever I'm a homebody. I don't really like to go out and do stuff that young Hollywood typically likes to do. So sometimes I feel like I don't fit in, but I'm glad that I don't. I love being myself and I love who I am.
In Daniel chapter 3, we find three guys, three friends. A guy named Shadrach, a guy named Meshach, and a guy named Abednego. These three guys had been taken from Jerusalem. And they weren't just average guys. These guys were the best of the best of the best. Babylon had gone, ransacked Jerusalem, and taken all of the best of the best of the best of their people. And they took them back to Babylon, and they started trying to train them and help them become Babylonians, and then help their country become amazing by enhancing their country with the best of the best of the best people, with the best of the best of the best giftings. And so Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were three of those guys. Now the thing is that the king had a massive ego. And so King Nebuchadnezzar was his name. And he decided that he was going to make a statue, a giant statue of himself. When I say a giant statue, most of us, if we've ever been outside sports stadiums or even Washington, D.C., if you've ever been there, there's statues of people all over the place. Even Shields has statues of former presidents. And he decided he was going to make a statue of himself. So he said, let's go big or go home. So this is how big the statue was. It was 90 feet high and 9 feet wide. Okay, I don't know where you are right now, but more than likely you're in a place with either maybe 10 or 20 foot ceilings. So take it to the next level, right? Take it to the next level after that. Take it to the next level after that. That's how high it was, 90 feet high. Guys, I've been on a 90-foot cliff and had to rappel off of a 90-foot cliff. And seriously, I thought I was gonna die. It is really high. So he decides he's gonna make this statue, and then he's gonna have everyone in the kingdom bow down to him. Now, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego at that point had been in Babylon for a little while. And they had pretty significant roles in the kingdom. And they had to make a decision on what they were going to do. Were they going to obey the king and bow down and be like everyone else in the kingdom? Or were they going to do things differently? Now the thing is it wasn't like it was just a yes or no thing for them. There were consequences if they didn't. The king said, if you don't bow down, I am going to throw you into a fiery furnace. Now, I can't tell you how hot this furnace was, but fiery to me sounds like this could mean I'm going to die. They said, we're not going to do this. We're not going to bow down to you. The king's like, come on, like, just do it. And they're like, we're not going to do it. We're not going to give you the satisfaction of bowing down to you. We're not going to make you or this statue our idol. We are going to obey our God. Now the king got a little upset. In fact, he got really upset. And he said, I am going to make this furnace way hotter than it is right now. And they're like, look, king, we believe that our God is going to save us. But even if he doesn't, even if our God doesn't save us, we're still not going to bow down to you. That's wild, isn't it? I mean, these guys had been living in that kingdom for a while. It wasn't like they were outsiders, right? At that point, it wasn't like they were strangers, aliens of that area. They weren't. They had lived there. It was like their home now. But they didn't bow. Why? Because they saw themselves as foreigners. They saw themselves not as just robots who should bow down when they're told to bow down. They didn't see the king nor his image, his huge image that he created, as idols worth following. And I think in our lives, there's a lot of times where we are faced with things, with situations that are similar to these guys. Yeah, nobody's threatening to throw us into a fiery furnace. But I think a lot of times it's a figurative furnace where we're going to get burned socially if we don't give in to what we're being asked to do. I want you to take a few minutes and talk in your group about the things in our culture, in your world, maybe in your school environment, maybe in your family environment, that we're often tempted to bow down to. The things that become idols in our lives. And the things that we give into because it's just tough. Even though it breaks God's heart that we do it. I want you to take a few minutes, do that, then come back to the video. So when we give into idols, you guys, we do a few things. The first is this. We choose to be someone that we're not. Now, you might be saying to yourself, well, Josh, if I'm giving into idols, then maybe I'm not the person you think I am. No, here's the thing. I think a lot of times we get our identity screwed up, and I think with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, it would have been very easy for them to get their identity screwed up in a situation like this because they had been raised one way, and then they were reincorporated into a new culture and taught the ways of the culture and shown the ways of the culture. And so it would have been very easy for them to forget who they were and to not act in a way that would be necessarily, I guess, worthy of the calling that God placed on their lives. The truth is that when we surrender our lives to Jesus, he makes it clear that we can no longer serve two masters. Like, he is the one that we are following. He is the one that we are serving. So why would we give into the idol of greed, the idol of lust, the idol of bitterness, the idol of selfishness, the idol of money, the idol of possessions, the idol of ourselves, like trying to be our own God? Why would we do that when that is not who Jesus says that we are? See, I think, guys, we don't look at things necessarily in such black and white terms. But the truth is that either we are with God or we are not with him. And if we are with him, we have to start asking ourselves, what does it look like to live a life that's aligned with God? Like the way that we treat each other, the way that we treat outsiders. Jesus had a way of loving people and treating people unbelievably amazing. Even people that wanted nothing to do with him. Even people that spit in his face. Even people who crucified him. And I say this to you today, friends, is that God's heart for you and for me is that we would become people who do not forget who we are. The second thing that we do when we give into idols is that we rob God of the opportunity of showing his greatness. See, in this story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, he showed his greatness in an incredible way. And I want you to take a few minutes and read Daniel chapter 3, verses 19 through 30 right now as a group, and take a look at what God does in this situation. When Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are like, no, we're not going to bow down. We're not going to. In fact, it doesn't matter whether God saves us or not. We're still not going to bow down. Watch what God does. The Bible makes it clear that God's strength is made perfect in our weakness, okay? And that's what happened in this situation. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego had nothing to offer God. Absolutely nothing. But he came through. He showed his greatness because all that they had to offer was their weakness. All they had to offer was just their faithfulness. And God came through. And I say this to you, that when we say yes to idols, we rob God of the opportunity of showing his greatness around us and in us and through us. God's heart for you and for me is that we would begin to say yes to who he says that we are. That was the key for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. When you look at their lives, they definitely saw themselves as outsiders. They didn't see themselves as having to buy into the culture that they were put in. I think a lot of times in a place like this, a school, these kind of environments can be so overwhelming because it's so hard to see God in the midst of all the things that we have to walk through in places like this. I want to encourage you today, you guys, that God has created you to know yourself and to know who he says that you are. He's also created you to live a life as an outsider and to not be afraid of that. To not be afraid of looking different, acting different, being different than everybody else around you. In fact, that's part of the uniqueness and amazingness about people who truly are followers of Jesus. Their lives are marked by something different that, frankly, is amazingly attractive to other people when it's done right. So for you, my question is, what is it that's keeping you from living that full life? That life that God created you for. That life that we're about here at YTH320. God has said over and over and over again in Scripture that he loves us, that his love is unending, that it pursues us. In fact, he sings over us. Like, there's so many amazing things about the love of God. There's so many amazing things about the life that he's created you for, that he's saved you from. And today, as you break up into your groups, I want to encourage you that pursuing love, that unending love, is meant to compel us, to move us towards that life that he's created us for. That life of living as an outsider, as a foreigner in this place. You know, when I think about it, some of my favorite people in the world are foreigners. My wife and I have these friends named Pez and Lou from Australia, and they're like some of my favorite people. For those of you that are familiar with our last few missions experiences, you probably met a guy named Peter from Austria. Everybody who meets Peter loves him. Like, for real, everybody here. I gotta tell you, foreigners are some of the most amazing people because they give us perspective that we don't have. A lot of times they have cool accents, way cooler than Minnesota accents. And I think sometimes if we can shift the way that we think about how we live our lives to living our lives like foreigners do, we're gonna be even a little bit closer to that life that God's created us for. So as you go from this place tonight, may you know that God's ever pursuing, ever faithful love for you is there. And his heart for you is that you would step into the life that says no to the idols around you and says yes to being a foreigner, to being an outsider, to being someone who's bringing something different to the world around you. Love you guys. Have an amazing rest of your night. We'll see you soon. Now you might be saying to yourself, Keller, hold on, I thought you were done. And I'm like, whoa, so did I. But then I was like, hey, band. Oh wait, February 6th at the warehouse. February rally night, 7 p.m. You are not going to want to miss this. Hold on, wait. Oh yeah, there's going to be a full band. Oh yeah, can you believe that? Gonna be rocking. Also, we have a guy speaking who's the front man of a rock band. What? His name's David Zock, and he is going to blow your mind. It's going to be an amazing, amazing night, and you're not going to want to miss it. You're going to want to invite every friend that you have to be there. Why? Because God is going to show up in power that night. You don't want to miss it. Your world, the very framework for your world, is going to be rocked when you hear the stories of what God is doing around the world through this dude named David Zock, frontman of the rock band Remedy Drive. Check him out on Spotify, Apple Music, whatever you stream in. Check it out, and you're not going to want to miss that night. It's going to be amazing. February 6th, 7 p.m., February rally. Be there.